In this video, we're going to look at the GraphQL plugin. We'll be covering installation of the GraphQL plugin, example GraphQL queries and mutations, and additional GraphQL features in Strapi. By default, Strapi provides REST endpoints for each of our content types. However, with the GraphQL plugin, we'll also be able to add a GraphQL endpoint to fetch and mutate our content. Installing the GraphQL plugin is as easy as visiting the plugin marketplace and clicking the download button under GraphQL. Alternatively, we can install the GraphQL plugin from the terminal using the command npm run strapi install GraphQL. It's worth noting that Strapi uses Apollo server, an open source and spec compliant GraphQL server that's compatible with any GraphQL client. Let's demonstrate the GraphQL plugin in action by executing some queries. With the GraphQL plugin installed, we'll have access to the GraphQL playground at /GraphQL. In our demo application, we'll have a number of content types, for example, our restaurant collection type and our homepage single type. For our first example, let's write a query to fetch some simple data, such as our restaurants, including relation and component data. With the query executed, we can see that we've returned multiple instances of our restaurants, complete with the relation and component data. It's worth mentioning that we can apply filters to our query, just like we can with the REST API. Let's make a minor modification to this query to fetch a single restaurant by passing in the ID of our desired entry. With the query executed, we can see that we've returned a single restaurant instance with the specified ID, complete with the relation and component data. Next, let's write a query to fetch our single type, including our dynamic zone data. It's worth mentioning that we've specified our dynamic zones field name and then specified the type name for every component we want to fetch. We're also using GraphQL fragments to specify the field names that we want to fetch for each component. These need to be written in Pascal case with the following format: the word component followed by the category name of the component followed by the name of the component. With the query executed, we can see that we've returned our single type instance, complete with the dynamic zone data. Let's move on to writing queries to mutate our content types. Let's write a query to update our single instance, including our dynamic zone data. Whereas in the REST API we would use __component key to specify the component we want to update, we'll be using __ type name. Much like the REST API, if we don't include the ID of our component, a new component will be created with an incrementing ID. So to update an existing component entry, we'll need to specify the ID of the component. With the query executed, we can see that we've updated our single type instance, complete with the dynamic zone data. Strapi also supports GraphQL aggregation and grouping, with more information available in the Strapi documentation. The documentation also includes information on how to customize the GraphQL schema, allowing us to create our custom definitions, queries, types, and resolvers. That's it for this video on how we can use the GraphQL plugin. You should now have a good idea on installation of the GraphQL plugin, example GraphQL queries and mutations, and additional GraphQL features in Strapi.